have about 45 minutes, so I'm going to not say much other than I think that this distribution issue becomes a real challenge for a lot of organizations, both in terms of how do you own, do you want to own a distribution system? How do you manage it? How do you sort of make sure that it's working the way you want it to work? And I think we've got two great presentations that'll talk about that. Then we'll have a little bit of time for the three of us to talk, and then we'll open it up, as we've done before, to the audience. So as you're listening, be aware, of course, we are going to have some audience interaction, so be prepared for that. And as a faculty member at Ross, I'm often happy to cold call. So just kidding. But okay, so I'm not sure the order. Flavio, you're first, right? Okay, please.
Thank you, David. So we are located in 5 different states in Brazil. We reach over 3.5 million people there, all in concessions or PPPs related to water and sewage. It's 5 different operations, and we have over 900,000 sewage and water connections or households. The market in Brazil is just around 90% operated by state-owned companies. Only 7% actually is run through private operators. And from the 7%, Aegea has 15% of the market share. The group is controlled by Equipave Group, a local Brazilian group, and it has also IFC and GIC, which is the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Singapore, as a shareholder. Well, that is just to give a picture what is the water and sewage industry or market in Brazil. We have very low coverage. That's not really the case of water, but in terms of sewage, only 48% of Brazil has actually sewage collection. And only 37% of that sewage is actually being treated. The other is like freely delivered to rivers or to sinks. In the official targets, which mean reaching 92% of sewage coverage and 93% of sewage treated by 2033, we have a huge gap. And what's happened in the last few years that it's not running too well. I mean, it's increasing, but it's increasing very low. And in that speed, we're not going to reach the official targets. So there's a lot of governmental work to stimulate the private sector going to these investments in terms of a regulatory framework or financing. This gap means there's lots of investments to do, and the government itself or the state-owned companies do not have enough money to do so, or not enough leverage capacity to do so. Okay, so comparing to other countries, Brazil has very low sanitation coverage and low water consumption per capita also. So there's a lot to improve, and there's a very big potential market there. There is also a very low, very high percentage of not invoiced water availability. So which means for the companies that operate there, there's like a huge market to reach yet. As I said, the public sector is not being able to invest the budget which is assigned to reach the official targets. That's because there's no cash generation or not leverage capacity to do so. And at least, and this is the minimum number that we heard in Brazil to reach the 92% of sewage, we're going to have to invest almost 300 billion reais, which is just almost $150 billion to reach the official target by 2033. The market is almost fully controlled by state-owned companies, which are running by the states of Brazil, the state companies of Brazil, or to the municipal companies, water and sewage companies. Although it's a municipal business, the power to grant a concession or to create a vehicle to the private sector invest in that is the municipal, is the city, is the mayor, is the local legislative. So the challenge to the private sector, to Brazil itself, is how to make it safe to invest since it's a long-term return investment. So regulatory framework is quite a challenge. It has to be improved, but also the political risks of the operation. We have elections for mayor every single 4 years. So we're going to do the investment, and if the mayor itself change his mind and change the regulatory framework, how can you get the payback? So that's how we start to think how to strengthen that relationship. And the way was to create a business organization that has a relationship directly to the client, to the organized community, to the press itself, so you're not being exclusively reliable on the mayor itself, but to the community. So the company has to open its operation, to open its dialogue with the community. So the modeling starts with people. We have to, yes. We have to train people a lot. First, to get them sensible, the employees, about this challenge that they have to be open to the community. It's a public service company. It's private, but it serves to the public, and it's very sensitive because it's water, it's related to the environment, and there is also, every single month, there is a bill coming to each house. So we spend just around, in the next 5 years, we're going to spend $15 million just training people. And actually what we have to do is MBAs, in-company courses. It's like a water and sewage university for the company in different levels, like basic level or MBAs, to prepare people to this challenge. The other thing we had to do is to separate the type of the key executives that run the company. And that was like, we had a lot of mistakes in the beginning because the type of executives that we brought to the concessions, to each local concession, was more related to the public service. So the relationship with the community, with the press, with the politics, was great, but there was no results to the company. And in the other hand, if you just put an executive focus on the results, on the margins and everything, we did not build, we couldn't build that relationship, that close and open relationship with the communities. So we split it off. We have an executive officer with the focus in the business plan, and a president or a CEO which does the open dialogue with the community and the relationship with the regulatory agencies. They don't have the same objectives. There's like a little bit of a dispute, but a healthy dispute between the two executives. But in the end, next one, please. It's the CEO who leads the open door policy with the community, and that mitigate the political risk for the long-term investment, because then you do not rely just in the mayor each 4 years but you have directly communication with the population. We start doing the program which calls Affluentes. We identified each community leader in each town, and we invite them for monthly meetings to discuss their problems and try to get from them the priority on sanitation investments. So we create like a type of ombudsman program with these communities, and we also get in touch with the local problems or the local needs of each community. Like that, there's a few other social programs that help the company to get in touch with the local society, the local community, and I think the most important one is the Saúde Nota 10 program, which means it's a health and sanitation education in the schools. There's comic books. For each city, there is like a local story related to the community. And through that, we reach the family itself, the father and the mothers that actually pay the bill. And through that program, we reach the community about the issues of why it's important to have sewage collection and why it's important to pay for that, why it's important to get environmental education and environmental practice and so on. So we reach the family through the kids in the schools, and we like have we do contests for environmental or healthy themes. So that's a pretty good way to reach the family through that kids. In Brazil, just around 28% of the population are located in extremely poor or vulnerable population. So that's really relevant for the company, this type of client. What we do for this segment is talk a lot about the families directly, like we send people to each household, and we instruct them with health and environmental themes. We also help them to get the Tarifa Social, which is a subsidized tariff for poor people, so we help them to apply for that. And we also check for frauds, linkages, and everything in the house, so we get correct metering system in each house. The profile of income is 180 to 800 month a family, and there is no regular water, so we're doing the same thing as we see in Manila's water. We are bringing for the first time water connections and sewage connection for the population. That's some examples of just back, yeah, go back a little bit. Yeah, that's just the example of leakages and some frauds that when we visit the households, we get in touch with and we correct. So there is also a commercial return in that interaction. That's an example of a neighborhood that we act before that the school absenteeism and the health diseases were quite high, and just after that program, in terms of health and in terms of also in the frequency, in the in school, it improves a lot. And the results are there. When we start to operate Águas Guariroba, which is one of the concessions in Campo Grande, 800,000 inhabitant city in Brazil, we reduce the diseases related to sanitation 34% in average in 4 years. That, what we did is we built almost 800 kilometers of network pipelines, water and sewage treatment plants, and so on. And the result is directly to the health statistics and also to the municipal accounts, because we reduce the expenses of each municipal in the public health system. So it has an impact in both ways. There's just some pictures about one of the other social programs. For the very poor people, we distribute food and basic goods. The same people that measure the metering system deliver the food in each household. And that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you, RFC, for the opportunity, for the initiative. I think it's already making a difference. Thank you.
Next is Rasheed from the Saro Agriscience Limited, and he'll be talking about distribution for his operations in Nigeria.
Actually, when we reviewed our distribution, it was not because we wanted to run an inclusive business. We had a business challenge. We were distributing crop protection to farmers through our key distributors. And those key distributors, after 2 or 3 years, they became so big, we couldn't control them. We couldn't partner them properly, and we had reduced market access. The industry was growing, and we were growing at a rate lower than the average industry rate. We have another business in consumer goods, and what we did was to take reverse learning from that business that uses direct to retail, which was how, perfected by P&G, Reckitt Benckiser in Nigeria, and we adapted it to the agro-input sector. So basically, that's what I'll be sharing with you. Okay, Saro is a 22-year-old company. We started off with Saro Agriscience, our flagship company, which formulates and distributes crop protection in Nigeria and in Ghana. We currently reach over 1 million farmers, and since we changed our distribution model, we've been able to grow. We have a CAGR of 45% in the last 5 years. As at last year, we only offer crop protection products. We reach the farmers through 6,000 retailers. We still deal with the wholesalers. They only represent 35% of our business. The micro distribution business model is about expanding reach. More than 50%, I think 40-something% of Nigerian GDP is agriculture. And these are small-scale farmers living in the rural area, so to speak. And one of the major things is that they have to travel long distances to buy farming inputs, which is critical to them. So one, that's a compromise, a consumer compromise. So what we came up with was to design the direct-to-retail, ensuring that farmers naturally go to farm markets where they sell their produce and buy stuff, inputs, soaps, and what have you. And I think we identified like 1,300 farm markets. Those markets have market days. Some could be 7 days, some could be 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and so. So we brought people together, people who were already in some form of business. We taught them, we educated them, and we said, no, this is a business opportunity. And Several of them did show up, and we've been working with them since that time. Another opportunity it afforded us was to actually be able to work with farmers. When farmers enter the farm market, they want to know a lot of things. They want to know when to apply crop protection, the type of seed. They want to know the type of yield they could expect. They want to talk about new insect or pest attack. So really, it's not about teaching the farmers alone. We also learn in that process because it's an information exchange. More importantly is that we worked with the retailers to develop, we call the program the Saro Friendship Club. Basically, the Friendship Club allows the retailer to be trained by us. They are basic training, bookkeeping in business, pest identification, to be able to advise the farmer, get feedback from the farmer. In every farm market, we have like 16 retailers in a farm market, but we also have a staff of Saro in that farm market with a van. So when they have issues they can't deal with, they can talk to that guy who is able to explain. If he's unable to explain, it goes back. There is an extension process. You can't solve the problem. You go back, next market day, you provide the solution. Okay, before we changed to direct to retail, I think Saro Agriscience only had 35 staff. All of a sudden, we had like 280 staff spread over the country. The major challenge we faced was pilfering. People collecting the money, not rendering the account, and because these people were hired from the local communities, very difficult to take affirmative action against them. The community is always pleading and co. And the local government, because the vans, we have over 100 vans going to these farm markets to supply products to the retailers every market day. There are multiple taxes because the vans are branded and stuff. And we also have issues with, I think the Novartis guy in the morning spoke about multi-layering. People wanting to make money and at the end of the day, making the product more expensive to the farmer. This direct to retail was a threat to people who have been creaming off the farmer for a while, and they still, as I speak, still represent a major challenge. Of course, some other areas, because roads in the rural area, they are not that good. Some are cut off. You can't reach the area. It's difficult. Actually, I think this year we started the boat sales rep, using the boat in the riverine area to actually go to the markets and deliver products to them. Opportunities. Okay, agriculture is undergoing small but steady transformation in Nigeria. Majorly in sub-Saharan Africa, the major challenge in agriculture is low yield, low productivity. So this is a major opportunity, knowledge gap at the bottom of the pyramid. Though the government has an extension infrastructure to get information across to the farmers, but this extension infrastructure is poorly funded, and when farmers come to the farm market, it's a major opportunity for us to interact with the farmer, build trust, and when the farmer wants to make a purchase, then they buy our brands. Now, I've talked about low productivity, room for innovation to add other services to the farmers. I'll come back to that in a minute. And key success factors in expanding reach. Right leadership at every level in the business chain. Actually, I didn't know I would be coming here. My colleague running this business is not around, so I traveled to meet the people working in Saro. And across, I think I went to like 9 states. And in meeting these guys make decisions. They work with farmers. They are trusted. They are proud doing something Some of them are farmers themselves. They use the products. They've seen productivity of the farmer change. And, you know, to me, there's nothing more inclusive than that. I mean, it's kind of cool, you know, that I work with people who are proud doing their work, and in that process, we also have some commercial benefit. Major thing we have also achieved is training and retraining of staff and the retailers. Of course, competitive pricing and value to the BOP farmers. That's the proposition of our distribution model. Information exchange and extension, I've talked about that. And of course, because agriculture in sub-Saharan Africa mostly is rain-fed, rain-dependent. So when the farmer needs a product, he wants it at that time. You know, that's one of the key success factors. Okay, I've talked about this. The farmers are underserved, poorly served, compromises, good number illiterate. Saro messages to them are usually diluted. I've talked about why we went to this. In the end, they are further shortchanged. Reaching these farmers directly is critical. And of course, a bond with them is a winning strategy. Okay, this is the distribution model. We have our own private labels, or we get products from Bayer, BSF, whichever way, this is how we do it. Saro, our import terminal or factory, our 83 drop points, through advanced sales reps to farmer-facing retailers, and 33% through the wholesale. And we have a universal pricing model. So we sell to the wholesale at the same price we sell to the retailer. You know, the wholesaler is forced to pick up products because of the brand equity, because he's not going to be able to sell other stuffs if he doesn't have a product. The farmers will ask for our products. So that's why we have the leverage over the wholesale. Okay, this year we have a new joint venture with Sitco, which is the leading seed company in Africa, because in the last 20 years we have been making crop protection available, but crop protection alone cannot lead to increased farmers' yield, income, or livelihood. Yeah, you can assure farmers' income. So now we have seed on that platform, and we have fertilizer on that platform. These three inputs put together will actually lead to increased productivity for the farmer. We're also looking at increasing the farmers we are reaching from 1 million to 2.5. We've also started the direct sales outlet in Ghana too. We are increasing the trade members. And of course, we're also increasing our outlets. But one key thing we are doing now is in our information exchange center. The information exchange center, it's our van in the farm market. You know, when the farmers come, we have their record. We can, through the SMS platform, tell them when to spray, when not to spray, and stuff, and it's quite interesting. The farmer does not pay. We pay for the service. Our target is to be able to grow over the next 3 to 4 years, have a 30% cumulative annual growth rate. That's what we want to achieve. Yeah, we currently do direct to retail, but we think in the near future, we should be able to do direct to farmer. We are working with the local IFC team to be able to set up 10 pilot stores for the direct to farmer. We don't want to get the retailers out of business, really, but not all the retailers want to carry the full range of products. And without the full range of products, the farmers will not be able to get the direct benefit, you know, of Saro, so to speak. Major issue, again, is still the risk and compliance management. We have deployed 62 of the 86 locations we have are real-time online. So we do have information which we can use to manage the business and code. But at times in Nigeria, that's not also a perfect science. People do not post and say no access, you know, so that's still a major issue. But one thing we've learned is that when the farmer comes to the market, the farmer is actually less interested in the input. The farmer's first interest is to sell his produce. So we are also considering buying maize, because the maize story is quite funny. Yield in Nigeria is 2.5 tons per hectare. With the new variety we have introduced with Seedco, we should be able to get 6 to 8 tons per hectare. And in the areas where we are running the 10 pilot shops of direct to farmers, they're also the maize area. So we'll be buying maize, you know, under this trial pilot program to be able to see and grade the maize so that farmers who produce grade A can earn more and stuff. You know. We also, I mean, one major benefit of my coming here is the looking at what they're doing in Brazil. We also want to be able to offer financial services on that platform. You know, and of course, 2 of my guys will be visiting. I will be making arrangements to visit their operation so that we could also learn and be inspired by that. You know, why we'll continue to invest in this model? Yes, it's not because we're in love with the farmer, right? It's because we run a business. Either running that business and creating value for the farmer to increase his yield, income, and livelihood is cool, you know. And we will continue to invest in this model so as to be able to sustain a competitive advantage, build in competitive proofing, you know, and innovate every time. Thank you.
Thank you guys for your presentations. Maya, how much time do we have left? 10 minutes. I know we want to have some audience Q&A, so I'm going to ask you guys, you know, one of 2 things in a moment. Either if you have a particular question for these gentlemen, please ask, or if you have any sort of advice from your experiences in working with distribution networks, please feel free to share that with everyone here. And with that in mind, I want to ask you guys, so you've been at this now quite a number of years, working with farmers, dealing with water issues. Looking back over the past years and thinking about, wow, I really wish I'd known that when I started, what would that have been? What would you share to someone that's saying, I want to start a crop protection, I want to do water distribution or sewage? You know, what was the thing that you kind of wish you'd known that you'd like to, that you might want to share and let everyone else kind of say, well, you know, this was a big learning for us over the past few years, and maybe adding to, wow, I wish I'd known that, and given that, here's what I would have done about it too.
I think the most important thing is realizing farmers' price points, farmers' willingness to pay. You know, in the first 12 or 15 years of the business, we were making products that were too expensive for the farmer and not in line with his expectation or his income. You know, immediately we changed our model, we moved nearer the farmer. The farmer has to be serviced at this price point. So then we needed to reduce our cost and be innovative about it. So that would be my advice, you know.
Okay, I think it's 2 things, basically 2 things. First one is the one that I just showed. It's you have to be connected, related directly to the community itself. And that's a trial and error. We start in this business focusing more in the mayor, in the legislative, and we take that a little bit apart, and then we find out that it's both good for the business commercially and also inclusive. The other thing is more related to productivity. It's really an industry. It's just like a soda industry, but there's no can, no bottle. You deliver into the pipelines. So for the group, which starts in toll roads and in energy, go to a business that is more related to production itself, made us change the type of executive to run the companies. We got a more production engineers to the team and so on.
Thank you. You know, we do a lot of work with companies. You know, so when you think about distributors, and I was thinking about this panel coming here, and there are all different types. You know, there's obviously a big difference between water and crop protection and distributing that. But then there's also, you know, you can own your own distributors in the sense of they're your salespeople. You can work with local stores. You can micro-franchise. You know, so in thinking about it, I was trying to figure out what are some commonalities. But one of the things we found is that a lot of our partners make investments in enhancing their distribution network, and they make a number of them, but they don't really know what's working, right? And I think that when you're doing this, there is a reason to be rigorous. And I like your idea of, you know, talking to the farmers and understanding the price points, but also really understanding what's driving behavior. We did, when George was talking, we had done something similar in another African country with a different company, and that they were using they had a great network. They were everywhere with their products. It was a health product. But what became apparent, and what's neat about George's model that wasn't in this model, was that the consumers were coming to the retailers, and they were their point of advice. They were their awareness. And the retailers, and this I think also applies in crop products, the retailers are the ones that are recommending. And what they were finding was that they weren't recommending their products, they were telling them how to do them incorrectly, or they were just in the back of the store. And this sort of, you know, it kind of bleeds over into our earlier discussion about awareness, but a key part of that is awareness with your distribution network, that they don't really understand. You're not their only customer. So there's part of it is getting the incentives right, and the other part is recognizing often that they're seen as a source of wisdom, and they have a lot of pride in giving advice to people. So if you can help them do that, that can add a lot of value to it. But it's complicated because you have a lot of distributors and retailers all over the place, and they were struggling to figure out how do we create a consistent message, because as we've talked about, the base of the pyramid is not homogeneous. And of course, the retailers and distributors aren't homogeneous either, so it gets complicated. But I think that's something that we really want to push harder. You know, I would encourage all of you, and we're doing a lot of work to really understand. So we do a lot of work right now with working with women distributors and thinking about, you know, and that's been a traditional base of the pyramid model. How do we enhance, or how do we minimize turnover? How do we maximize sales? What are the things we need to do from both the profile of the individual to the investments we make in them? What are the things we need to do to make that work? And I think that applies, and we've seen that with farmers. And one of the things we've seen, I think, is probably true in crop services and farm products, is also the need for demonstration. That there's often you need people to take the lead in the community to do it, and then there'd be demonstration plots and things like this. So, and that helps the retailer as well. I think this brings us to the end of our time. Thank you to the IFC for allowing us to have a panel like this, and I think these issues, you know, are really important, and a special thanks to our two panelists for sharing their thoughts and insights.